talking to us about self-promotion. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Angie, for having me. And thank you all for being here today. So usually I start this by asking what you think about self-promotion. And oftentimes I hear many things. I hear bad, pretentious, scary, icky. And self-promotion is only these things when it's exaggerated, boastful, or not meaningful to others. And so today I'm going to share with you how to self-promote minus all the ickiness. Great. So why does self-promotion matter? Why should you even bother doing this? Outside of the technical skills that you have and the work that you do, another thing that people care about is what is known as soft skills, things like communication and proactiveness. And although self promotion is usually given a bad rap with like it's cringy and icky and all those other words that I said, it is possible to self promote in a way that doesn't leave you feeling that way and provides value to other people. And this matters because by promoting yourself and your work, you can build a global network. You can have people find you easily. Clients, potential employers can easily find you. You become noticed in your field, and even outside of your field, you build your personal brand and you also reinforce your own knowledge. And in some, self promotion matters because visibility. And visibility is not about having millions of followers on whatever platform you're on or having hundreds of thousands of views. It's really about being seen by the right person at the right time. So self promotion can be impactful, it can be authentic, it can be engaging. And what makes the difference is value. When you take value and you add visibility, what you get is opportunities. So value here means sharing a concept, sharing an idea, sharing your knowledge, sharing a project you're working on, sharing something that you've done. And when you combine promoting your value and what you've done with the visibility that comes with that, that can lead to opportunities. And opportunities, fill in the blank. It could be a new job, it could be a raise, it could be a promotion, it could be a speaking opportunity, it could be anything, whatever that looks like for you. Visibility combined with the value that you have brings that for you. And self promotion in this case and visibility, it's not necessarily about you yourself or bragging or boasting or any of those things. It's about showing what you've done and showing what you think. So let's start with how do you do this in the work setting? So if you are employed, if you work with a team, or if you fall into any of those situations, how can you self promote or grow your visibility at your workplace? The important thing to note that it's not just about what you've accomplished, but who knows about your contributions and who can connect you to those contributions. You have to be clear about what you've done and how it has benefited your team or your organization. Because if nobody can connect you to what you've done, you won't get rewarded for it. So to be visible at work, you need to one, take credit for your work. And people may feel iffy about taking credit for their work. You may feel like, oh, if I'm doing a great job, everybody should know, everybody should just see it. But everybody is in their own universe, everyone is busy, and it's up to you to do that work, to connect the value that you have provided, the work that has been accomplished to your efforts and the things that you've done. And people often shy away from this because they feel like it makes them seem arrogant or annoying or not a team player. Yes, there are ways that you can take credit for your work that show all of those behaviors, but there are also ways that do not. And it's important to take credit for your work because if you do not take credit for your work, someone else is taking credit for your work. And that means that someone else is reaping the tangible and intangible rewards of your work. So if someone is taking credit for your work in public, there are ways that you can raise your hand, not necessarily like this literally, but there are ways that you can speak up for yourself and talk about how you contributed as a way of broadening the conversation. So you're not saying, oh, this person is lying, I did all the work. It's like, oh, this person helped with this and that, but I also did this, this, and that. And that way you're connecting what you did to the outcome that is being praised. Is also important to do it in the right setting, in the appropriate context, is like in meetings where the topic is at hand, in performance reviews, places where there is room to highlight what you've done, how you did it, and the impact it had, and who else contributed to it. So you need to take advantage of things that already exist in your organization. So, for example, if there's a all hands or some other kind of meeting where people share updates about what their team has done, you can ask your manager or whoever runs the meeting to for a chance to share about what you've done, what your team has done, and you can highlight your contributions to your team in that. If you have a launch and learn program or something similar, you can take some time to share about your role and your team and how you support the organization and all the other teams. If there's a company newsletter, an internal newsletter that you send in your organization, you can share something about your team and the work that you've done there. And the important thing as well, another way to take credit for yourself without necessarily quote unquote stealing the spotlight or feeling or being arrogant or annoying about it, is to highlight other people. So when you're sharing about something you have accomplished at work, always credit other people for their participation and contribution, speaking specifically to how they helped in achieving that goal or surpassing that target. And it's a very nice thing to do because people also appreciate it when you spotlight them. So being visible at work is not about hogging the spotlight or being in everyone's face or being annoying. Is about showing the value that you're creating and also spotlighting other people. And you also, when you also highlight other people, it makes you feel less weird or icky or whatever about sharing what you have done. The important thing that underpins the whole idea of being visible at work in a way that doesn't make you feel icky or doesn't rub others the wrong way is to think about it from a way of being helpful. How are you providing value? And there are many ways to do this. You can volunteer at work. So it's important to think about, when you want to volunteer at work, to think about how does it also benefit you? Because at the end of the day, you are at work, you have specified hours and you have specified tasks that you need to accomplish. So you think about, how does this benefit you? Does it help you gain a skill that you would like to have? Is there an interest that you have? Is there a corporate social responsibility project that your organization is doing in an area that you're passionate about? Is someone on your team going on a long leave and they need extra help with a project? Somebody else needs extra help with the project. If that's something you're interested in, then you can raise up your hand to volunteer for that. That raises your profile. People see you as someone who's helpful and you can show value. And it's very important to be clear to yourself. You don't necessarily have to share this with other people, but to yourself, you have to be clear on, what benefit does this bring to me in the workplace? Is it an emotional benefit where I feel like I'm contributing to my team? Is it me? Is it a practical benefit where I am learning a skill? You have to be very clear about that. Are you just exploring an interest, exploring something new? Right. And it's also a way to get to know other people in your organization that you may not necessarily work with one on one or in your regular day to day. Another thing you can do is start something. So I talked earlier that if there are initiatives that already exist in your organization where you can share your wins, your accomplishments, how you've contributed to your team or how your team has contributed to a business goal. If those things do not exist, you can actually take the initiative and create one. You can pitch this to your team lead or to whatever other teams that you're most in contact with, to say, this is something we can do and this is the benefit. So for example, you can initiate a launch and learn program and you can frame, the important thing is the framing. So you frame it as a way for the people in your organization to get to know one another, and so that they can work better with each other and enhance cross-functional collaboration, right? So just think about, again, value. How does it benefit other people? Because it's not only about you. And that's why it's not really self-promotion, but more promoting connection, promoting the work that you've done, right? And then another thing to do is contribute. When I say contribute, I mean that when you're in meetings, don't be silent. Don't be that person that never speaks in meetings, because that is a very great opportunity to share value, contribute meaningfully in conversations, whether it's a Slack chat or a video call or an in-person meeting. It's important for you to be engaged, to ask relevant questions that are clarifying questions or offer suggestions. If someone has said something that you agree with, indicate that you agree with them, but don't just say, "Oh, I agree." Say why you agree, reiterate their point, and say, and again, give credit. Like if you're not the first person to say something, say, build up on what other people have said and also credit them for what they have said. Don't be shy, don't be afraid to speak. And a thing I've noticed with people that I have coached or even just at work is that people are often hesitant to ask questions because we don't want to seem like we don't know something or we're not aware of something. But asking questions can be a signal that you are engaged in the conversation and that you actually care, you want to be there. And that is always a good sign. And then another way that you can be visible at work is to know the priorities. It's important for you to know your manager's priorities, your manager's priorities, the business priorities. This way, you're actually working on things that are important. You can then focus your energy on things that are actually important to your manager, to your manager's manager, to the business that you're working in, to your teams. And then when you're sharing your wins, it is actually relevant to your team, is relevant to your organization, and it's not just a random collection of things that make you feel good. But how do you do this outside of the workplace? So let's say you're rocking it at work, you're able to do all of that self-promotion thing, you're promoting the value that you have, other people are crediting you for your work, you've done all of these things. How do you also do it outside work? In this context, it's not necessarily about being the expert, but about learning, growth, and again, value. A question I am always asked when I do this is, what if I say something that is wrong? And my answer is always this, or recently has been this: it doesn't matter if you're wrong in public, because it depends on how you're presenting the information. If you present information like, I'm the expert, I know everything, I'm right, I'm right, I'm right, and you end up being wrong, that's where that sense of fear can come from. But if you present information as, I'm learning, this is what I've seen as I'm learning, and this is an opportunity to grow, then even if you're wrong or you make a mistake, then you can accept the correction as a new thing that you've learned, and now you're growing and you know better. But in terms of how you can then share online, be more visible outside of work, I have a three-part framework which includes creating, repurposing, and collaborating. So, what does it mean to create? In this sense, I mean creating content, and this is a way to connect with others globally and grow your network. The internet is an amazing place, and you can connect with people all over the world in your area of specialty, in other areas of interest. So you have to start with where you are, start with what you like. If you like writing, write. You can do that on blogs, you can create a newsletter, you can write ebooks. If you like to talk, you can do a podcast, you can do Instagram Live, LinkedIn Live, whatever. The platform doesn't really matter. What matters is that you're putting something out consistently and constantly. Creation doesn't also always mean that you have to create something new from scratch all the time. Creation can look like curation. You have lists of resources that you find enjoyable, things that you found useful, books that you've read, courses that you've taken. You can curate a list of those things and share those with other people. That is a way to create value for other people as well. And in this way, you're networking, you're pulling the opportunities to yourself. You're not necessarily going out to look for opportunities. And this is important because people want to work with who they know, even when they know you from just a blog or a podcast. There's a TEDx talk I watched a long time ago by a person called Mitchell Levy, and they said that people do business with those they know, like, and trust. And it applies here as well. People want to hire, partner with, and all of these things, people that they know, like, and trust. And this liking, knowing, and trusting is can be built from when you constantly publish things online. Think about the creators that you follow in whatever context, whether lifestyle or in your area of specialty. You feel like you know them. You feel like you can trust them if they say something. And if you do that as well, you can also build that community around yourself. And then people can also connect you with whatever you talk about. So when other people are looking for someone, they can refer and recommend you. This is a screenshot of a man named Bronson, and visibility, like I said, is not about thousands and hundreds of views and millions of followers, because you only need one person at a time to engage with you. This person was publishing YouTube videos consistently, and he was only having 11, 12 views per video. But one of those 11 or 12 views was Oprah Winfrey, and that led to him being a co-host on a television show with her. And so it's not about the numbers, it's about you just doing your work, doing the bits that you can, and leaving the rest of it that is not in your control, and just being consistent. This is also another example of someone who got a job interview, were invited for a job interview solely from doing a podcast. Somebody heard them on a podcast and reached out to them for an interview. In this case, this person was not interested. But imagine as someone who is searching for a job or looking to transition to a new path or whatever, and someone reaches out to you because you wrote about something that you learned or you shared an idea that you had. And I personally can also trace a majority of the opportunities I've gotten, whether full time or freelance, to specific pieces of content that I've created, whether it was an article or a talk or a workshop. I've had LinkedIn posts turn into job opportunities, freelance opportunities, speaking opportunities. Earlier this year, I gave a talk at a meetup in Brussels. No, not in Brussels, in Belgium, Ghent. And it was because I posted on LinkedIn that I wanted to give talks. So share, share, share. Very important. And it's not about who you know. You may have heard that, oh, it's about who you know, but it's not really about who you know or what you know, even. It's really about who knows that you know what you know. You could be the best at anything, but if nobody knows it, they cannot recommend you and they cannot hire you. And so increase the number of people who know what you know by creating content. Questions to consider when you create content. What do you want to be known for? What topics do you want people to associate with you? What topics are you passionate about or knowledgeable about? What have you learned recently? And how can you begin to share that online? What platforms are you comfortable on? Jot down all your ideas, give yourself time to brainstorm and explore various ways of creating content. The second part of the three-part framework is to repurpose content. Take something you've created before and remix it, change the format. I'm currently doing a daily podcast, and some of those episodes are converted into essays for my newsletter. And that is a very simple example. And if you think about PhDs, people who do academic research, from their academic research, they can publish multiple research papers. They publish books even, they give talks, they go on podcasts. Like there's so much you can do. And repurposing is great because it helps you reduce the stress of constantly having to create content, and you can stretch your content. You can allow people engage with your content in different ways, and it also helps people remember what you're saying and associate you with something, because repetition aids remembrance. Content is like energy, and so it can change forms. So, and you can also repurpose things that other people have written, but also remember to give them credit. You see a blog post, you can, with permission, ask them if you can make a graphic out of it and share that, and then tag them in it in whatever way. So just think of creative ideas of ways that you can share what you're learning, resources that you've stumbled upon, and so on. Here's another example of Lenny. Lenny started with his newsletter, if I remember correctly, and then that became the podcast, and then that became a book. This is a good example of repurposing. I already talked about my daily podcast, which also became a which goes into my newsletter. This talk, I've had multiple versions of it. There's a checklist, there's an ebook, there's a course. So repurposing. Questions to consider: what content do you already have that you can improve on and share in a different way? What publications can you reach out to have people to work with them to share new content, to repurpose their content? And the final piece in this framework is collaboration. Collaboration to create content is networking through content raised to the power of two. So you amp up the networking possibilities by connecting with other people. And it also spotlight another person. So you're not just spotlighting your own work, you're spotlighting your work and someone else's work. So you're creating value for yourself, the person you're working with, and to the people who engage with that content. So that could be interviewing someone on an Instagram live or LinkedIn live or Twitter spaces, creating a resource together, teaching a workshop together. It could be pulling an event together like this, right? This is another way to collaborate with people. And before you ask people to collaborate with you, especially when they're not your peers, you have to engage meaningfully with them and show them the value that you're bringing and the value that's in it for them. You don't have to follow someone everywhere or engage with every single thing they've ever done, but you should have an idea of what value this collaboration will have for them and for the audience that you want to share it to. And these are some of the questions you can consider. You don't also only have to collaborate with people who are senior to you. You can collaborate with your peers. If you're a writer, you can collaborate with an illustrator to create an ebook that is illustrated. That is something that is spotlighting both of you. Finally, value plus visibility. If you don't remember anything else, value plus visibility equals opportunities. Promoting value is not just in educational content. It could be funny content, it could be motivational content, it could be anything. As long as you're sharing authentically, as long as you're sharing what is true to you, what you really think what is, you're not positioning as the know it all or be all and end all of everything. You're honestly just sharing online, which is what I've always been doing. That has led me to so many opportunities. As long as you keep value in mind, and you, as you share what you're creating, you keep the value of what are people getting out of this, then you will see opportunities coming to you. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. I was so inspired. There's just so much in this talk that for us to think about as we create content and create the room for opportunities to find us. So thank you again.